I started to play Sonic Frontiers. Yeah, I think I like it. I think it's cool. I started playing it this morning, and yeah, I think it's kind of the Sonic team's answer to like, all right, we keep doing these kind of on rails. They might as well be racing games. Like, there's not all that, the gameplay is just not that interesting. So, like, would it be, and there have been a lot of like a fan developed games where Sonic is free range. You can run around all of Green Hill, free range. And so obviously that's like the central concept. And I think it's gonna work. I think it's like, there's Sonic-esque loop-de-loops and springs just kind of everywhere in this open world. So it reminds me a bit of Bowser's Fury, where there's kind of like there's kind of like mini Mario concepts everywhere you go, but they also kind of contribute to an overall landscape. And but my only complaint though is like right off the bat, there's a lot of like training simulation. There's a lot of like, here's how to do all the moves. Here's how to do a triple jump. Here's how to do a cycle jump. You just got an experience point. You got a new thing that you got to memorize. And here's a menu filled with shit. And I'm like, I struggle with that kind of thing. Don't give me menus filled.
I'm still playing Demon Souls, which is fun. It's tough, and what I like about it's because I played Elden Ring the beginning of the year, and it was kind of the first Souls type game, these hard games that I've played, and so this is more like the first one, that was remade, and it's interesting because it's a lot simpler, and it feels it's kind of like Mega Man in some ways because there's like 5 levels that you can like hop between in a hub, and so you kind of like can pick your poison and choose your own adventure. So it's been kind of fun just to play. It's more arcadey than Elden Ring, where
That's
Elden
cool.
Little is like you're on an adventure, baby, and you better be strapped in. This one you can like do a little bit, get a little bit farther, maybe beat a boss, and then you can stop. And that's been working out for me right now.
That reminds me, like just how much Game Boy games and portable games are similar to arcade games.
Yeah.
Like I play like my share of PSP on the arcade one up, and really like a lot of those PSP mini games were really just mobile games that weren't on mobile yet, and they actually play pretty. It's pick up and play. It's arcade style, and I was all my life I've played Bugs Bunny's Crazy Castle. You collect all the carrots and don't bump into anybody. And it's actually pretty good. Like obviously there's a famous AVGN episode, but I actually think the gameplay is solid. Like in terms of like a kind of a puzzle platformer. And there's like 80 levels or something. I remember finding it so daunting as a child. Um, but I was playing through it on my new emulation device, and I was like, you know what? I've only ever played the NES one. Let me pick up the Game Boy version. And it just, there's something about it on Game Boy that makes so much more sense. You're like, this is totally a Game Boy game. Like, this is what Game Boy was made for. And then I discovered, so the AVGN's big thing was that they made like lots of Crazy Castle sequels, and eventually it was Woody Woodpecker instead of Bugs Bunny, and he was like, "What's the connection?" It's because Mel Blanc did both their voices. Like, what is it? What he didn't talk about was that the original release of Crazy Castle was on the Famicom Disk System, and it was called Roger Rabbit. And the sprite was Roger Rabbit, and all of the bad guys were the weasels, the penguin waiter, the gorilla that throws him out of the club, and like it's all Roger Rabbit shit, and it all makes sense because you're in like these like brick factories and stuff. Like it's like, oh, this is totally, there's invisible ink as one of the and like of course it translates to Bugs Bunny but it makes me wonder like how come in America they thought like let's go with Bugs Bunny instead of Roger Rabbit.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it was the time frame because there's a lot of Looney Tunes, or it's just who happened to have the license at the time.
Yeah.
Because I think it was then also didn't they do a Mickey one where it's the same concept? It was Mickey.
Really?
I want to say maybe I'm getting that wrong. Maybe I'm thinking Woody Woodpecker.
I mean, Woody Woodpecker for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, that's interesting. No, I didn't.
Roger Rabbit. And there is famously a Roger Rabbit NES game, but on the Famicom Disk System, it was Crazy Castle.
Subscribe to Red Cow Entertainment on Patreon for full episodes every other week.